Okay, so I ended up watching the Joss Whedon version. Um, I try to do a reaction, this don't work for me. So anyway, yeah, I watched it, and I mean, I could say it all in one sentence. For the people who love the Snyder Cut and loved his vision, you'll think I'm an insane person, but from beginning to end, I like that movie way better than the Snyder Cut. Now, I hadn't seen it for a couple years, so when I'm watching the Snyder Cut, I'm vaguely remembering that I had good feelings about it. And as I was doing my Snyder Cut review, I was just, all I could think of was how dark and horrible the movie was. In terms of horrible feeling, like low, let's all be depressed, let's all be emo, let's all just stay in this gray, horrible world. And the I'm gonna call it Joss Whedon's Justice League um had so much color and it was so vibrant, and I'm saying to myself, it had to have been filmed this way. I mean, I'm sure they made it more colorful, but this had to be more what it looked like in the camera, and the Snyder Cut version must have been, what was filmed with all the color taken out and colorized to grayness and sadness and all that. But once you just the color difference makes the whole difference in, the beginnings of why I think it's so much better. um I've watched a couple other videos, like I just watched Red Letter Media's Snyder Cut review, and they talked about some of the things that was wrong with the Joss Whedon version. Those guys, they know what they're talking about. But for my money, the nitpicks and stuff like that are just that. They're nitpicks. If you want to be very serious about a superhero movie, then yeah, go be very serious with that Gray Nightmare. But what I watched yesterday was so vibrant and happy and quick, and the editing. I mean, you have to edit a movie down. That's the point when you make movies. Everybody who makes movies, even people who make 4-hour movies, they edit them down. They have editors. You, I'm not saying that we wasn't edited at all, but you have to pare it down. You don't keep everything. Um, but the way this was edited, it was so tight and so quick and fluffy and bouncy that I can't I can understand, not if you prefer the Snyder Cut. I can't understand hating the Joss Whedon version. It's fun. It's light. I don't see an issue with it. I mean, I can't see having an issue with it. A big one. If you just thought, okay, it didn't fit with the Snyder Cut. Yeah, no kidding. But if you take it, you ignore the rest. Ignore all the other stuff. Ignore Man of Steel. Ignore everything else. And just watch Joss Whedon's Justice League by itself. It's a fun superhero movie. And the characters seem to have way more dialogue in a movie that's half as long as the Snyder Cut, which is, like I said, it's like a non-verbal movie as far as I'm concerned, and that's why I had such a hard time paying attention in those first 2 hours. Um, I feel like, it goes to my personality. I'm more concerned with having fun, I guess, than sulking in the corner. I like zany comedies. I like fun movies, and I know some of the lines of dialogue in the Joss Whedon version, make people think it's, they're stupid lines of dialogue. But if we're talking about ratios, um, he had more lines of dialogue to pick apart, and therefore, percentage wise, his dialogue's better because there's, like I said, next to no dialogue. Now, I'm watching this movie, and I know that the whole gripe was that Henry Cavill mustache started off the movie on the wrong foot, because the first thing you see is Superman talking to you and his lips funny, and you're like, what the hell's going on? But let's remember, that wasn't their fault. That was the Mission Impossible people's fault. They would not let him shave that mustache, or maybe he didn't want to shave the mustache, but the point was, those were reshoots. He was doing another movie. It was because of the situation that for some reason could not be avoided. I'll never understand that. why it couldn't be avoided, why you can't shave a mustache and grow it back. But if you don't try to ignore it, you can't ignore it, but it's not as bad as everybody made out. Because I'll tell you the truth, I sat there and watched the movie the first time. I didn't know about the mustache thing, so I wasn't going there looking for it. I didn't even notice it. I just thought, something was weird, maybe, or he looked a little funny for a minute. But I didn't sit there and tear the movie apart because there was something wrong with his upper lip. And then the character of Superman. There's so much Superman in Joss Whedon's Justice League. There's next to no Superman in the Snyder Cut. This is what I'm saying. I don't understand how you have a Justice League movie with so little Superman in it. All the characters, in my opinion, and I could be crazy, I wasn't sitting there with a stopwatch, but watching the Joss Whedon version, they all had more to do. Okay, yes, there are complaints. Yes, we don't need the camera on Gal's ass as often as it was in Justice League. And I'm sure he was a jerk to people. I believe all that. But the complaint was the Ray Fisher thing, not watching both movies. In terms of that character, Cyborg. For a character I've never heard of as a normal person, I guess I'm called a normie. As a normal person, I've never heard of Cyborg. So I don't feel like I needed to know his whole backstory or that it needed to be included in this Justice League movie. Because when you're watching a movie about a group of people, you don't need to get all their backstories. If they had standalone movies going into, this Justice League movie, that would be probably the best case scenario for everybody. Because then the fans would all know who these people were and stuff like that. But did you need to know that much? Okay, he's a cyborg. It's in his name. He, and because of that, he can hack computers with his brain. Why do you need to know his whole life story just to see him participate? Why do you need to know Aquaman's whole life story? Why do you need to know Superman's whole life story? You see Superman, he's got a cape. He flies, he punches people really hard, he has superpowers. Why do you need to know all the steps leading up to that to be able to sit there and watch a movie of people fighting a bad guy? Now, Steppenwolf, in this movie, like I said, at first, seeing it by itself, originally you say, okay, that guy looks a little weird because he wasn't real, like he wasn't a real person. But like I said, I did prefer this look to the other look. And at this point, it makes more sense here. And the way he was defeated makes more sense here. Of course, it's spoilers. Why would I not say spoilers at the beginning? I don't know. But, yeah, it just, every step of the way, everything made more sense to me. The score is a normal score. Okay, it's not what was it? Dumpster Fire. In the Snyder Cut, he's got some background score. He's got stupid songs. He's got the wailing, yodeling lady. It's a hodgepodge of stuff that doesn't go well together. And I know the people who fought very hard for this movie are going to say that they love it and they're going to be in love with it. I guarantee you, 10 years on, if we're all still alive or anybody's still alive, they'll start reevaluating things and they'll look back and they'll say, you know what? The Joss Whedon version wasn't that bad. You know what? Now that we're not all obsessed with cancel culture, and who's a nice man and who's not a nice man, that movie wasn't that bad. Let's relook at this. Because in the end, it's not. It's a traditional superhero movie. It's quick. It's fun. It's light. The good guys win. I like the Russian family. You need to have, where Superman is concerned, he needs to care about people. And that is something that Joss Whedon fixed in a way that Zack Snyder's Superman didn't have. And that's probably why I didn't like Superman, because in Man of Steel, like I said, he made Superman into an asshole alien. I don't know why that was his choice, but Superman, since the beginning of Superman, for all the people who read the comic books and watched the movies, watched the old TV shows, he was just supposed to be this ridiculously upstanding dude who just saved people and was just perfect. He's supposed to be perfect. So when you try to make him like Batman, you try to make him like you think I'll go make a Superman story that's sort of like the Dark Knight. It doesn't make sense because that's not who he is. That makes sense for Batman. I've seen criticism of Batman being too light. Well, look, you got Ben Affleck, who's a funny, affable guy. It makes more sense for him to say quips here and there because it's him, but also every story is different. So I didn't mind. I mean, again, some of the jokes were kind of off, like not that great, but why shouldn't he be sarcastic? Why shouldn't he be snarky? There were also much more scenes of Batman and the fight scenes and stuff like that. Batman had stuff to do. I mean, in Snyder Cut, he's just kind of standing around with his arms folded. And the scenes, like I said, when they're all together, they're standing around with their arms folded. The scene that I missed, I remembered after I did my review of the Snyder Cut, that there was that scene that I loved so much. This is why I ended up coming out of the theater having seen Joss Whedon's Justice League peppy, because of how cool I thought the Aquaman character was. And there was that scene where he's sitting on the magic lasso. Now that I remembered it after I did the Snyder Cut review, and I was like, wait a minute, wasn't there that scene? Wasn't that movie? I thought that was so funny. You know, like I said, I like funny, I like happy, I like a good superhero movie where they act like heroes, you know, and they save people. And, you know, that Superman went and saved the Russian family. That set up the race between him and Flash, which everybody always wanted. I don't see a lot of room for disappointment, you know. I don't. So if you really liked the morose, sad version that Zack Snyder was putting out, I understand. This is what you wanted and you got it now. And I'm happy for you. But as movies go, based on just the movie itself, for me, like I said, I ended up giving the Snyder Cut a 5 on the IMDb. I looked back at what I gave this when I saw it, because when I would go to the movie theater, generally speaking, when I got home that night, I would go directly to the IMDb to record my vote. So I went to see on the IMDb what I had given Joss Whedon's Justice League when I saw it, and I gave it an 8. Like I said, I saw it in 3D. I was very impressed. It's somewhere between, it's probably 7.5 in reality, but I gave it an 8, and I watched it last night, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not changing it. I'm not bringing it down. I'm leaving it right there. And everything about it was better. The only thing that I could say was a little bit better in the Snyder Cut was Ezra Miller, because somehow the way he is worked better in the Snyder Cut. I mean, maybe there was a couple too many little Bugs Bunny moments he had where he was just like, you know, making weird faces in the Joss Whedon version. But these actors were able to act. They had dialogue, all of them. They had things to do. They weren't just posing and trying to be inspirational and reading inspirational quotes out of the Book of Snyder. You know what I mean? They were characters in a movie in the Joss Whedon thing. In the Snyder Cut, it seems like they're supposed to be symbols of something, who read, you know, fortune cookies and just, you know, like, you're trying to be inspirational or something. You're trying to have your movie be profound, and in the end, it's depressing and morose, and it's a downer, but it's pompous, and you want it to mean something, so it just comes off as you know, like I said, you're posing your actors. You've got storyboards brought to life, so you have imagery because you want to have images instead of dialogue, story, plot. So you just have images, and you're getting your message across, which is supposed to be hope, but in the end it's depressing. Meanwhile, this bounty one over here with Superman with the blue and red suit makes so much more sense than, oh, look, black suit. I mean, black is depressing. I don't know what it's supposed to mean to the people who read the books. I said that before in the other review. I don't know if the black suit is supposed to mean something wonderful, but why would somebody in a black suit mean yay going forward? It seems like, oh, there's going to be more depression. Come with me. Yeah, so what else? There was one other thing. Oh, the scenes that I hated, the bad acting scenes. One of them just didn't exist, the Joe Morton one. So I don't know if that was a reshoot or if that was already always there, and Joss Whedon saw how bad it was and cut it. And then the focus on Cyborg. Okay, so if we know the timeline of events and we know what was going on, we know that Ray Fisher was complaining about how he was treated by Joss Whedon, and we know that this was all happening at a time when social activism was in the headlines every day. I can see a situation where they would have shot, because of all that, as they were refurbishing and redoing the Snyder Cut. That money had to go somewhere. So I can see a situation where they shot more scenes with Ray Fisher and put it in there in response to what had been happening. It's possible these scenes were always in there. But to me, I mean, if he did a bunch of reshoots, and Henry Cavill obviously wasn't involved, because if you see it now, if you look at them side by side, most of Henry Cavill's dialogue was with the mustache erased. So once you take out all those scenes, he's barely in it. I don't know if he did, I don't know how many reshoots he did with other people, but it looked like most of their stuff was also in this Joss Whedon version. So the only person who really seemed to have a lot more was Ray Fisher. So I'm thinking it makes more sense to me that they added stuff to his storyline in the Snyder Cut that was never there for the Joss Whedon cut. I don't know what the truth is. I wasn't there. Also, the added stuff, there was a lot of effect stuff, like those people, like the drippy guy I liked. The guy dripping all the one thing I liked, well, one of the things I liked from the Snyder Cut, the dripping guy with the dripping fire stuff. He wasn't there. None of those people were there. They didn't mention Darkseid. So when you get to the end of the Snyder Cut and you're like, I thought they were going to fight Darkseid, and it's underwhelming because, you know, she just chops off what's-his-face's head, which it makes so much more sense for the bugs to eat him, which is what happens in this one. But it's the money went into more effects, I think, and that part with the Amazons, it looks so much nicer in color. In, like, you want to think of Amazons and people and any kind of Greek god types living in this pleasurable place to live with sunshine and blue skies and green grass. That's what it was in the Joss Whedon cut. And the other one, it's more, you know, dystopian, steampunk, gray, you know, world devoid of color. I mean, if anything, was bronze. And that went on for that was just too much. Who cares? That went on for way too long. Gal, she's okay, but I don't want her narrating things. So when you cut it down and it pops like it did in the Joss Whedon version, it's so much better. And I can't, like I said, there's almost nothing that I can complain about. I don't think people are being realistic. I think a lot of people liked Zack Snyder. They thought he was a nice man. They're fans of his. He had his vision. The WB were maybe not nice in taking it away from him because he needed more time or something after his daughter passed away, and giving it to Joss Whedon. If that's what happened, if it was a time issue and they just said, well, no, we want to do this, and then they let Joss do whatever, yeah, that can be seen as nasty. And I can see wanting, you know, Zack Snyder to have his vision come out, and it has now. But Does that mean the Joss Whedon version is trash? Absolutely not. To me, it's better. You can hate Joss Whedon if you want. Anybody can dislike people, and there's been stories about him. And I understand why younger folks, the way they are politically and the way they've learned to judge people and do things, they won't look at the movies as the movies. They'll look at the whole behind the scenes of it, and that's how they will judge it. They won't just look up at the screen and see what's there for the running time. They will think about who's in it, if they like them, if they're problematic, you know, and all that stuff. And I don't do that. Like I said, I look at the movie, I'm watching the movie, that's the movie. You know what I mean? I had an issue in the last week or so with Zack Snyder saying bad things about people I've been watching on the internet for a while, and it upset me. But I didn't say, okay, I'm going to dislike the movie now. I'm going to look at everything. I gave the movie a fair shake, and I gave an honest review of it. And it's just, like I said, I hated Man of Steel. I knew nothing about the man. I didn't know who directed it. So his style is not something I like. Like I said, if I watched part of 300, I probably shut it off because I don't know what happened in that movie. I remember seeing images and stuff, so I don't know if I ever watched it or if I just saw clips. But that's not my cup of tea. Like I said, in the beginning of the Snyder Cut, because it's so long, in that scene with the Amazons was so long, it looked very much like 300 to me, and I said, this is why. This is not my thing. Then it was too long, and everything else I said in the other video. So judging the films as films, I really like the Joss Whedon version so much better on every count. You know, there was so much, like, from the music to the look of it and everything for me to complain about in the Snyder Cut, that I didn't even have to get to the plot, which I don't know what the plot was. It was so much more obvious in the Whedon cut. So I just, as a movie fan, you know, looking at it as a story, looking at it as a superhero movie, just looking at it as, did I have fun? Of course I had fun with this one. Does anybody have fun with the Snyder Cut? I don't know. I don't think that's what they want to do. I think they want to be serious and morose and all that stuff. But the thing is, and I have to say this, the Nolan movies, Batman Begins, maybe not so much Batman Begins, but The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, those three movies, they were very good, and they, like I said, they elevated themselves to film, you know. I would hold The Dark Knight up with movies like The Godfather. It's that good. They were still fun. They had fun in them. You could laugh sometimes. You know, it didn't have to be bleak to telegraph that it was being serious. It was just, the quality of it made it be taken seriously. And if you can't do that, and you think if you just hammer seriousness and purpose and trying to be profound over people's head, that they will decide, oh, this is serious. I could take this movie serious because it's so... Why so serious? It's so serious, it must be good. This is more popcorny and hokey, it must be bad. No, the Joss Whedon version, in my opinion, is vastly superior in terms of movie quality and fun to the Snyder Cut. That's my verdict. You can hate my guts. It's okay. I don't mind.